Hi there. I'm Christine Zips. I'm an independent natural wellness journalist and health rights advocate. I've been focused on looking into the biological effects from EMFs or electromagnetic fields from wireless technology for several years now, and especially focused on Wi-Fi in schools, raising awareness, and just trying to get the message out as best as I can. And I'd always ask that no one take my opinion as their own, but hopefully we can provoke some curiosity that will lead to some self-discovery and better informed decisions all around. So today I'm honored to be joined by Virginia Farver. I've known Virginia for a few years. I have deep admiration for her and her work, and she's a concerned mother. She's a fellow advocate raising awareness on the same type of issues with cell towers, and especially concerning our children. But this odorless, invisible radiation is impacting every living being on our planet, and the bees and trees and birds are being impacted, and the animals, as well as we are as human beings. But our children are the most vulnerable, for many reasons that will come out later. But I would like to introduce Virginia and welcome her. And as part of her introduction, I'd like to share with you a clip from Take Back Your Power 2017 film. And we'll cut to that chase right now. We're sharing this with permission. So
thank you, Christine.
Thank you for joining us. We will get this going. Okay.
I started wondering, how are our future generations being affected by this unprecedented increase in electromagnetic radiation?
I had a son that was going to school at San Diego State University, and he called me and he said, "Mom, I've got the worst headache." He says, "I'm projectile vomiting all over my apartment." And I said, "Get to the hospital." And the emergency room doctor at Sharps Memorial Hospital in San Diego called me, and he said, "Your son has bleeding in the brain." And I said, "We'll be there immediately." And my son had surgery that evening. When he got out, Dr. Tanawai told us that my son had brain cancer, and it was either the very worst or the second worst type of brain cancer you could have. It was nothing but chaos for 7 months. We moved him back home and had to pack everything that he owned in California and brought him home, and he only survived just shy of 7 months. He died October 11th of 2008. August 7th of 2009, I typed in cancer clusters, and I saw SDSU, San Diego State University brain cancer cluster. And I read this article over and over, and I think it put me in shock, and I ended up on the floor for the rest of the day. But sorry. I realized they were talking about my son. So I immediately started contacting SDSU, the administration, and I felt myself just being bounced around. Nobody wanted to deal with me. So I got my car and I drove out to San Diego for the whole month of October of 2009. And I went over onto the campus. In these articles, they talked about a cell tower. And I went over there, and there's this huge cell tower that's outside of this building, which towers above NASA Tier Hall in room 131, where all these kids and people come down with brain cancer. My son, Rich Farver, died October 11th of 2008, and he was in NASA Tier Hall, room 131. Professor Charles Cutter died June 19th, 2008, NASA Tier Hall, room 131. Lou Terrell, diagnosed with primary lymphoma brain cancer in 2008, He was in the room right next to room 131. Dwight Anderson died in 2008, Nancy Hall. Miss Laurel M. Tower died August 29th of 2010. Richard Funston died, and he was also located in Nancy Hall, room 131. I just think that this wireless stuff, we just need to get a handle on it and warn the public. But I just want parents to know, and I want kids to know that these are very dangerous. And these are on many, many college campuses. A reporter from the San Diego Tribune that I had contacted actually called me at home, and he said, this story will never get out in San Diego. And I said, why? And he said, because of money.
Okay. Again, Virginia, you're so brave and so sorry for your loss, but we're honoring Rich with this message today. I like to think, even though I never had the pleasure of meeting him, that he's smiling and he's glad that we're doing this work, especially you, his mom. So again, welcome to this forum today. And maybe, what do you think about starting with, what have you been focused on since you did this film? If you want to share a bit more about Rich's symptoms, however you'd like to get going, we'll let you do that.
Well, thank you, Chris, for having me. I've just been focused on, I've investigated several cancer clusters, and I've been trying to get hold of media, people like you, they're getting the message out, and getting hold of parents to let them know what is going on.
Great. That luckily there are more and more of us speaking out, and more are awakening, and I do believe that we will reach that tipping point that we need to reverse this trend for our children. It's just so, it's all important. I like to say sometimes that while children make up 20%, only 20% of our population, they're 100% of our future. So it's just simply, it's that important. So thank you for helping with all that you do. So you had touched upon cancer clusters. Is that something, maybe with the Kelly Elementary School, is that something you might like to share a little bit more about?
Well, I actually have many, many boxes of information on 5 different cancer clusters.
Wow.
And of course, my son at SDSU, I've done more research on that. And I've got a picture of the cell tower. I don't know if I can show that. Do you think that's okay?
Yes, please.
Okay, yes. This is a picture of the cell tower. Hopefully you can see it. And
yes,
I want everybody to notice the dead tree foliage in the picture.
Yes, that is clear. Yes.
Okay, and also in the 2009 articles online that I found, the school spokesman mentioned that this cell tower was installed in 2005. And I have pictures of it being installed in 2002. And this one cell tower, and this is what I want parents to understand, it's a grid cell tower. It's part of the smart grid, and that's why I'm in the film, Take Back Your Power. But this one cell tower in 2002 was a distant record holder at 72 miles in all directions.
Why?
And it's still on campus. And then at the same time as SDSU, there was a cancer cluster, breast cancer cluster at UC San Diego. And I found the confidential report on that, and it's 27 pages. And they found high levels of dirty electricity throughout this building. There was one office where there were 8 women between 2000 and 2006 that were diagnosed with aggressive breast cancers, and they all worked in the same room. And this room was up against an electrical equipment room, and it was next to an old elevator that produced a lot of this dirty electricity transients.
And if I can interrupt you just a little bit there, and you'll probably go into this, wanted to mention that we're going to be glossing over a great deal of information today, and they're like Virginia said she literally has boxes of information. She's quite the resource, but she'll be providing links to this information that we will include in the comments section for if you want to dig further and learn more about that, including, for example, if you're unfamiliar with the term dirty electricity, you can understand better what that means and why we need to be concerned and know about how to minimize our exposure to that as well. So thank you for letting me interject that.
Oh, absolutely. And so to go on about more, there was a cancer cluster at Kelly Elementary School in Carlsbad, and this was announced in 2010. Well, there were high tension electrical power lines that come within 439 feet of the center of the school. And these are very large electric lines. And then upon that, I've got a 10-page list right here of 59 cell towers and 219 antennas within a 4-mile radius of this school. And this list was from 2013. And I hate to backtrack, but going back to UCSD, again, these schools, nothing was done. What they did, Chris, was they had epidemiologists that worked for the state of California that wrote reports. And these are, I call them bogus reports. They tell you how many people will die of a certain type of cancer in a certain length of time in a certain area. And what really needed to be done were toxicology studies. So with that said, nothing was done with SDSU or UCSD. So in 2016, another cancer cluster was announced at UCSD, and another girl was diagnosed with an aggressive form of cancer, breast cancer. And so I have the new resolution. I can give this to anybody who's interested, by faculty and staff that worked in the literature building on campus where all these women were located. And so now the building is now closed down. And then there was a cancer cluster announced at Quinta Middle School near Palm Springs in 2004, and had, because nothing was done, another occurrence in 2015. And I've heard there's between 50 and 100 new cases.
I'm just trying to think, people who are listening to this, I can imagine that they're wondering, how can this be? How is it allowed to continue? Why do you think that after all of this has happened, including with your son and everyone else with Nassatir Hall, also these other places, how do you think this is allowed to continue? Why? I understand that going from wireless technology in schools and on schools to wired, it's faster, it's more predictable, it doesn't influence data mining, surveillance issues at all, and the radiation is not there. Why would they not just go back to wired? I mean, we're not saying that they can't have internet connections, but it needs to be safe. And it's also the parents and the students are not being informed that this radiation is taking place, and it's non-consensual, non-informed consent going on here. And it seems a lot like a crime against humanity. How is this allowed to continue, do you think?
That's exactly what it is. It's crime against humanity. And I personally believe it's the school districts do not want to be sued. And I think that's why they did these epidemiology reports, because basically every one of these reports stopped any further investigation. So they didn't go in. I do know that I got hold of the professors at SDSU, and they had requested a toxicology study twice from the administration and were denied one. So this is what's going on. And then there was another cancer cluster at Ripon Elementary. It's in the Central Valley somewhere. Mm-hmm. There's a cell tower that was put up in 2009, and there's students and teachers that are now becoming ill and diagnosed with cancer. So the parents are getting involved, and they're demanding that the cell tower be taken out. So the word is getting out.
That's excellent. And I'm thinking that, a lot of times people are, those who are responsible, they might think they don't want to get sued. Everyone is so litigious minded in our society these days. They're so afraid of being sued. But, and there are concerns, and there's a lot of that going on. But they also I would like to suggest that the school board, usually the school board trustees, I understand, can be in a position of doing something about this, stepping up, doing the right thing, that they should consult with their school to see if their school carries third-party indemnification, because I understand that that's not happening because the Lloyds of London asked for there to be an exclusionary clause placed in the policies. So that could be, they might think that they're kind of safe with that, but not so much. But also, they are also at great risk of being held individually and personally responsible under the mass action of liability process for allowing this harm to continue. So I just really implore them to look into this, and like to think that they can. The reason that they went into this line of work in the first place would be because of the love of a child, love of children, and they're their first priority. So I would like to invite them back to their heart, to not be so wrapped up in the business of running a school, and think of the children. They're being harmed. The future generations are as well. So I'm not wanting to be a fear monger, instilling fear, just suggesting, pleading as respectfully as possible to please look into this for yourself and make an informed decision on where you go from there. So I wanted to do that, and this might be a good time if I may share a little note from a California teacher. She has stepped up and raised awareness in her community. She's given me permission to share this that she sent me recently. She says, as teachers are now being trained in suicide prevention strategies, the terrible irony of the chronic exposure to radiation in our classrooms can't be overlooked as a contributing factor. In the name of progress, we are failing in the worst ways. And she continues, we are supposed to hang an awareness sign in our classes so kids can refer to it. While I think these steps are important to address this new reality, I am so frustrated by the disconnect to causation. When I addressed the obvious with an administrator in our school district, I was told the increasing rates are due to the new strains of marijuana. I didn't really know where to go with the reaction I had to that comment. Virginia, what do you think of this wonderful teacher in Orange County, California, coming out with this?
Well, she's absolutely correct. And just that was one of the first things that I actually was aware of. I know a medical writer that lives in the San Diego area, and she told me that depression is one of the very first symptoms that your child will have if they've been overexposed to any of this wireless radiation. So it's a big concern.
Mm-hmm. Yes, brain cognition and absolutely confusion.
Would it be okay if I went through a couple of the symptoms?
Yes,
my son, at the time, I didn't know what it was, but he had extreme fatigue. He had headaches. He was having daily nosebleeds. He was having endocrine problems, basically excessive underarm sweating that mysteriously disappeared after leaving campus, by the way. And he had dental and vision problems. So this stuff, parents need to be aware, and these are EHS, electrohypersensitivity symptoms, and parents need to become aware of these.
Yes, good point. Thank you for sharing that. And that is true, that some of the short-term symptoms, they can be confused from being caused by a myriad of other things. They can think they have the flu or it'll pass or whatever. I understand from this same teacher that kids are presenting in her classroom with nosebleeds, bleeding from the ears, passing out. And these are children that are electrosensitive, but that doesn't mean not everyone, even if they're not feeling it, they're not being impacted by the same radiation. And it can take years to present with something stronger, such as serious heart issues, heart attacks, the the cognition problems, like you say, and the memory and all of that. But some are having heart attacks. I understand there are athletes, especially like football. So oftentimes there are cell towers near the sports fields at high schools, colleges, that they're disguised as signs, like the Fighting Bulldogs or whatever. Inside that sign can be cell antennas radiating this radiation onto the field, and they add that to their exertion. There are many reported cases of kids dropping from this exposure, but can just go on and on. Don't mean to be, so negative.
Well, and also this will make any pathogen or any illness much more viral. Kids will have colds longer or the flu longer, and your body just is trying to recover, and it cannot, because it's just stuck in this cycle of trying to heal itself, and so we've got to get this message out.
Yes, it affects the immune system, and as you know, Virginia, with the children are more vulnerable because they're smaller. Their tissues contain more water compared to an adult, and their blood-brain barrier is forming. Their immune system is forming, and they're just they can absorb, I understand, up to 10 times more radiation than an adult. So they're just impacted, and because the younger children's mindset is not developed well enough for them to speak up for themselves and say, we want this to stop. We need to step up and be their champions. And the people responsible, the officials responsible, they're in an enviable position to do the right thing for their schools. And like Barry Trower has said, that it can be like a domino effect, like among the moms especially, that when one school does the right thing and returns to wired, like many countries are doing, not so much in the U.S., but more and more countries are banning cell phones, and they're returning to the wired connections to internet, that when their mom's friends who maybe have kids going to a different school get wind of this, they go, wait a minute, what's going on? It can be like a domino effect. So these people in a position of authority to make a difference, they can be a hero with the parents and absolutely a beacon in their community when they do the right thing. So we're just asking that you consider to look into this and see what you think, and hopefully to do the right thing. But I think we should shall we move into solutions, or what do you think, Virginia? With
well, I've had for many years the ideas of having the call boxes along the highways where people, if you have to use a cell phone, you can get out and use it correctly with a wire so that you're not harming yourself. Personally, I think that cell towers have no business being on anywhere where the public gathers, churches, schools, anywhere where the public gathers.
Absolutely.
And, it's gonna be the parents that help get this accomplished. I know it.
There's a lot of force and strength when more and more are raising awareness, and parents talk to other parents in the schools. I mean, you're so right. And has no business being on schools. And as I understand that schools realize a financial gain through lease arrangements with telecom companies to have towers on their schools. And a lot of schools are hurting for money, and it's attractive to go that route. But when it comes to the health of our impact on the children, I don't see how there's any amount of money that could justify that sort of decision. Right?
Absolutely. I actually met with my local school district in 2010. I got a meeting with the risk management and sat at a table, and I ended up in a room with 9 men around me. And at that time, Chris, the school district was making $9,000 a month off of cell tower leases. Wow. And so and also we need to get rid of Wi-Fi. I don't think parents they know that a lot of this is industrial Wi-Fi now, where if your child is sitting in a classroom and they're in in line of sight from that beam, I mean, they could be possibly being exposed all day long to the beam. So there's just no reason to have this. We can have wired connections.
Absolutely, that's such a good point. And as you know, when a child is in school, 6 hours a day on average, 5 days a week, from age 18? Oh no, 5 until 18 or beyond. That this is an accumulated effect. It keeps building and building and building. It's not like a one-shot deal. So that's certainly something to take into consideration as well. So. Virginia, do you have, what would you like to, if you have a chance now to speak directly to students and parents and teachers and school board administrators from your heart to theirs?
Well, Chris, I sent my son to school to get an education. I didn't expect to bring him home and have him lose his life, first off. So I want parents and I want teachers to understand this stuff's dangerous. They need to speak out, if they have to gather groups of teachers, groups of parents, and speak out because there's probably safety in numbers, and start demanding that the schools take their child's health and take it very seriously. Unless or until that happens, I don't know if this will change. And our kids not only deserve better, but they deserve the very best.
Exactly. And we want those children to know, who are listening, that we're doing our utmost to turn this around for you. And, this just is not right, and it needs to turn around. And now would be very good for that. So,
and Chris, we also need to address the addiction to these devices. I've noticed, I just noticed kids constantly on these, and they're just really struggling to even get through a day. And I think that that again is going to have to be the parents that take and start paying attention to how much time these kids are on these devices.
Exactly. That's a very good point. Yes, as you may know, there are clinics that are springing up, digital detox camps, and they're like Dr. Nick Cardaris has written a book called Glow Kids, and apparently there's the kids get a hit of, is it dopamine from, for example, when they're on social media and they post a comment, oh, I'm going to the game, or this, and somebody said this or that, and the kids will come back and give them likes and thumbs up, and they literally are getting like a shot of dopamine to this. And I understand that the app companies that are putting together all of these apps for their cell phones that kids are more and more addicted to, that there are psychologists, teams of psychologists that are working to come up with more and more games, more slick stuff that holds their attention and keeps them distracted. And, I know some kids will take their cell phones to school. I would like to think that teachers would have the prerogative to at least say during class, those are going to be off, and going to be focused, and once they need to download material to their laptop or whatever until they can get this changed, then they can at least download the material, put it on airplane mode, watch the stuff, turn it off. But the best thing is to get it wired. That's just the way it is. Like turning it down is not, because there's been no level of radiation that's been proven safe for a child. Another thing I understand is that when parents speak up and say, we want this to be wired, that the school officials or principal will come back to the parents and say, we hear you, we understand, we really feel your pain. But what would help us have sway with the school board would be if you had a letter from your doctor saying that your child has been officially diagnosed with wireless sickness, with electrohypersensitivity, and that would help. And this, I can't believe this, because this has not been proven safe. The onus should not be on the parents to prove harm. The onus is on the schools to prove safety. That's just ridiculous to have to require to say that. To me, it's a stall tactic and it's lame. So, Do you
Well, cell phones were never pre-market tested for safety.
exactly?
And I want parents to understand, I have not had a cell phone since 2008. My life goes along just fine. I don't miss one. But I want parents to also understand, if you've got a child that uses a cell phone, you've got a cell tower so that that cell phone can communicate, and therein lies the problem too, because then you have
Good
the
point.
infrastructure.
Absolutely. Good point. Thank you for bringing that out too.
Sure.
So, well, we're got the messages, and just again to remind everyone that you'll find more information in the comments section. We hope you found this interesting, helpful. We don't want to instill alarm, fear by any means, because we're in control here, and we're in the driver's seat, and we can stand up and command that things be turned around for our children. And I'm sure that the more you can share this information, please feel free to share this video through your own network, your own pages. I would love for you to give a thumbs up if you feel this material is worthy. If you'd like to have notification when more videos are posted to this channel, just click on the bell icon below. And again, the information will be below, including Virginia, you've offered for people to contact you directly through your email address. Thank you for that. I'll also include mine as well if you have any questions for me. That would be great. I'd be happy to help when you can. I hear from usually parents every day. My child is having headaches. What can I do? Who can I say? How do I make the stop? Well, hopefully by our putting together PSA-style videos in this manner, that we're helping get the word out a little bit further. So, Virginia, do you have any closing remarks you'd like to say?
Chris, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and the parents have got to take this issue, and they've got to protect their kids. You don't want to end up like me, I can tell you that. So
Amen.
I'm begging parents and teachers, stand up for your rights. Do not let these administrators bulldoze you. Keep fighting, and we will win this.
Bless you. Thank you for that. Thank you for all you're doing. And I could not have said it any better. So thank you again, Virginia, all you do for your time today, and appreciate your joining us. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Chris. Thank you very, very much for doing this.
My honor. Thank you so much.